There we go.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna see if I can record it from my end too. I don't know if it lets two people, just so I can have a copy as well.
Sure. And if that doesn't work, or if you want to just record, I can send you the file.
Sounds good. I think I have it recording on my end too, so we should be good.
Okay, awesome.
All right, so let's get right into it. First of all, yeah, thank you for hopping on such a short notice. I really appreciate it. Had your story come across my desk and immediately was like, I'm taking that. I took all the other news editors away, all the other writers, and I said, anything that's got to do with Christian music or Christian rap, that's all me. So
Interesting.
really cool, really cool. And yeah, just appreciate you hopping on and answering a few questions for me.
Of course.
Awesome. So if you want to just start off by introducing yourself, if I could have your full name spelled out for me, please, where you're from, what your occupation is, and just a little brief summary about yourself.
Okay, so I guess I'll just give like not necessarily a full legal name, but just, so my full name is Christopher Mackness, Christopher Mackness. Um, I'm from Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and currently my occupation is literally making music. God has blessed me with, finances to be able to fund the music, and I'm in a very fortunate situation where I have very low expenses, so I'm able to invest most of my time into building music as a career and branching out to, you know, uh, convert that into some multiple sources of income so that it can be sustained, so that it can be something that I do long term beyond just, a side passion project.
Fantastic. And the stage name, it's CDAW, is that correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. So my first question for you was if you want to just give me a little bit of backstory, take me back to sort of how you got into music specifically, especially rapping, hip hop, things like that, which I know is kind of your main forte, is what my understanding is, and then just sort of how that was something that got into your life. Was it something that was prior to, the career side of music? Was it a passion for you beforehand?
Right,
Anyway, you
right.
want to take me through that? Yeah,
Okay, so I guess first I'll just spell out C dot. It's capital C cap or dash capital D capital O capital T, just
gotcha,
for clarification.
gotcha.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I grew up listening to Eminem, and that was a big inspiration for me, just because I thought it was cool to be able to rap. And so I learned to rap by rapping along to Eminem songs. Um, and then it wasn't until I was in high school where I discovered NF, who is a Christian hip hop artist. And listening to his music, right, there's no cursing, no bad language, no talk about subject matter that isn't fruitful, really. Um, and I think hearing that cinematic style of music that's genuinely aimed at like really helping people, subtracting all of the mainstream negativity, I would say, that really inspired me and made me think, what, if I was to ever make music, I would make music like this. And so I actually started off as just an NF fan page on Instagram. And then over time, COVID happened, and I was like, you know what, I may as well do something with my time so that by the end of COVID, I have something to show for it. And so I wrote my first song during COVID and began to post those on my NF fan page anonymously. Eventually did a face reveal, and then I sort of transitioned that fan account over to my main account. And if you actually look closely, well, I guess I actually just deleted it, but I actually still had a few days ago a Facebook account linked with the same title as the fan page. So I just finally deleted it years later, but there's still stuff that you can find online from that.
Right on. And you touched on it a bit there. Did you feel that there was sort of that aspect of, fruitful lyricism and meaningful lyricism in sort of modern secular music and modern secular rapping and hip hop as well? And was that sort of a need that you felt you were trying to fill?
That's a very good question. I think that's something that evolved over time. I think starting off at first I was really just interested in like how can I make music that sounds decent, right? And at first it was very bad, right? Like I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
But I think eventually it became almost like a form of like therapy and expression for me to help contextualize my thoughts and experiences. And if I ever was in a difficult situation, I would just want to write a song about it to try to help gather my thoughts and process everything. And I did that for my very first album, which I wouldn't even really call my first album because I didn't really know what I was doing. Um, and it had an impact on people. And I had messages from people saying like, "Hey, I was going to commit suicide, but I heard this song and it gave me hope."
Right.
And as soon as I sort of realized that, I think it maybe flipped a switch in my brain where it went from, this is something that can help me to, wow, I never realized how something I just do in my room, like just writing a song, can deeply, profoundly impact other people. And so over time, that has shifted into more of my focus. And yes, I still write about my experiences because that's the only thing that I know. Um, but I always have an awareness of the audience, the listener, and rewording things so that they can fit into experiences that I may not have experienced, so that it's sort of specific enough to really relate, but in some senses and in some cases, depending on the song, vague enough for many people to understand. And the fruit of that has been absolutely beautiful to witness. From the cry to the song Let It Out that I have with my girlfriend, that's at over 1 million views, thousands of comments. And it's like, I can't fathom it. And it's not, I don't know how to respond to all of the comments of the real impact that it's making. And so, in that sense, I just have to give it to God and pray for those people because I haven't even responded to all the comments yet. There's a big backlog. But yes, it's something that has evolved over time to trying to, I guess what I'm trying to do is, it's interesting that you say that to fill the need in that genre essentially is sort of rework the norm and make it normal to really actually care about and be responsible to your audience. And every word that comes out of your mouth as an artist, I believe is incredibly important because it can have an impact on people and it can linger. And I only want that to be positive ultimately. And I
Right.
only want that to help people heal. And sometimes it's going to come in the form of things that are a little bit more heavy and stuff. But ultimately, the goal of all of it is to help people heal and grow.
Right on. Yeah. And it becomes super real really fast, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's something you're doing for a fan page. You don't know how many people you're affecting. And then you get this flood of people that are touched by it and are genuinely emotionally impacted by it. So I'm sure that that is a crazy rush to get. And that's very cool to hear. The next question I had for you was tell me a little bit about where the idea for your song The Cry came from off of your latest album, Dichotomy. Uh, when I first heard the idea, my mind immediately went to, the rapper Nas had
Yes.
a 1996 album, song called I Gave You Power, where he raps from the perspective of a gun and sort of how
Right.
gun feels in, worn down streets and going through conflict and things like that. So my mind of you rapping from the position of an unborn child sort of went to that song immediately. I just want to know both from a perspective of structure of writing the song and trying to get
Mm.
those lyrics to line up, and also from a content lens of what you were trying to achieve with this song.
So essentially, like, what was my perspective going into that
Correct.
structurally and sort of like emotionally in terms of the impact?
Correct.
Okay, that's the first time that I've had that question asked, and I'm a little bit hesitant to answer it, but I'll say everything that I can that comes to me.
Sounds good.
Um, so the original concept actually, it was originally sparked from my sister, who, for a scholarship opportunity many years ago in high school, there's something called the Father Ted Culleton Scholarship Award or opportunity, and you have an opportunity to essentially write a pro-life essay and the top three get like financial awards and like scholarship opportunities. And my
Right.
sister came in third, and her essay was a story from the perspective of a child in the womb. And that sort of lingered with me. And I thought to myself, like, you know, I want to give it's such a controversial subject, right? And people have so many experiences and pain and emotion, um, and fear and all different types of things associated with the subject matter. And so I thought to myself, like, what is the most honest and truthful and graceful way to deal with this subject? Not trying to prove people wrong. There's been enough of that. There's been enough of arguing about, logical facts and all that type of stuff. And I thought to myself, what if I didn't argue at all? And I didn't even really like, my goal is not to prove somebody wrong, because if I was to prove somebody wrong about a belief that they have, somebody else could come up with another argument and prove me wrong, right? And it just goes back and forth. And so my thought was, everyone seems to have a voice on this issue except for the people who it affects the most. And I thought back to what my sister wrote, and I thought to myself, if I was to ever write a song about that subject, it would have to be very, very delicately crafted. And it would have to be a story from the perspective of an unborn child. And it took me 6 months to write it, roughly.
Wow.
Um, the first day that I started working on it, I wrote that chorus and I broke down in tears. I was laying in the bed right behind me. Um, and I broke down in tears. And it's like I could spiritually feel the presence of all of the unborn children who have been killed by abortion.
Right.
And it was completely overwhelming. And I knew in that moment that the song was going to have an impact. I didn't know to what extent. At that point, I hadn't really had a lot of feedback on any songs, I don't think.
Right.
Um, and so I think it was that realization that made me recognize I need to be very, very careful with this and very deliberate. And I actually, it's interesting that you bring up the technical side of the writing, because that I stressed that so much with this song.
Right.
Every syllable, every adjective, every time where I say we versus she versus I, like, all very deliberate. And I revised it later and changed a few of those. And originally, the song actually started with the kid in the womb on the bus.
Mhm.
And then I was reading a book at the time called The Writer's Journey that I believe my dad got for me. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Like, I know in just the overall storytelling side of things, in terms of like the hero's journey, usually the main character will start in a state of calm and normal. And that is what gives weight to the deviation from that. If you just start in the conflict, then it's already established and there's not much of the shock. And
Right.
so I moved that original start to halfway through the song. And I started with just the mom waking up in the morning, just to build a normal routine of what's familiar and what's normal. And I very intentionally wrote it so that you don't really know what exactly is going on until just over a minute in. And a lot of people listening might think that it's a toddler or something. They might have no idea the context. If they haven't heard that it is a story from the perspective of an unborn child, they're not going to have any idea. And so the idea there, and I'm very hesitant to say this because, um, it's very deliberate for what I believe is a meaningful and justifiable purpose, which is to humanize the unborn. And the reason that I wrote it the way that I did for that first minute and 18 seconds or so is so that the audience listening, if they don't know what's going on, they build an emotional connection with the main character before they know who the main character is. So that once they realize it's an unborn child, it's already too late for them to dehumanize them.
Correct. Yeah.
And that, I think that is what is at the crux of this issue, is humanizing the unborn. And it's a very, very deep, very heavy story. And when it came to the ending, I spent months trying to work out and figure out, like, what is the best way to end this? Like, do I want it to be brutal? Well, no, the song is already so heavy. I need to like introduce some hope. And that's why I added the the newborn baby crying at the end, because then you're sort of left open-ended, like, well, what happened? And the whole reason for that is so that it's not about what happened in that story. It's about the decision that a woman has if she is in that situation. Because unfortunately, um, you know, like abortion is a thing. And I can't change the fact that it is true that people can decide to do that. That's not in my control. I can't change that. So I'm not gonna like I'm not in a legal position or anything like that. I don't get into the legal side of things. My only goal with that song was if there is a woman who is contemplating abortion and she has an abortion scheduled for the next day or she's on her way there, that song would make her break down in tears and reconsider for the sake of herself and for the sake of her child. Because, and this is where it gets personal, um, like, man, I don't know how much I should say in like a public interview.
Right. That's up to you, man. It's all in your court. So whatever you're comfortable saying, feel free. If it's something you don't want to touch on, you can blow past this. No worries.
I guess I can just sort of say it vaguely. If someone in my historic lineage or whatever within the last two generations had decided to have an abortion in a situation that today's world would deem as completely justifiable to have an abortion, me, my whole family, my nephew wouldn't exist. And
Right.
so it is a life or death situation, and it has impacted me. And I've had people talk to me about, well, why didn't you write a song about your story and about how through the difficulty of your birth, you're like this miracle baby. Um, and that's something that I might consider for the future. But I guess I wasn't thinking about that at that particular time when I wrote the song. So that's sort of, I guess, a little bit of a breakdown of trying to, and one other thing that I want to make very, very clear is my intention is not controversy. My intention is not to upset people. I understand that it's a very upsetting issue, especially if somebody has had an abortion. Um, and I've spoken to many women who have had abortions, who have heard the song and who have reached out to me about it.
Right.
It's not to upset people or spark controversy. It's simply to bring truth of the reality of what that is out of love and out of this desire that we all have to be hugged by our parents, to be loved. We all want to be loved, whether it's me, you, or, an elderly person or a completely newborn baby or a newborn baby or an unborn baby in the womb. It is hardwired in us. We 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 just want love.
Right. And I think from that stance, you can kind of almost categorize the song as a love song. It's not your typical love letter, boyfriend, girlfriend love song,
It's
but it's
interesting.
about this greater line. That's sort of the
Yeah.
takeaway I had from it. It's sort of this greater love song and what
I got
humans.
chills when you said that.
Well, you should tag that and you should give me some royalties from that. You just send it out. But
It's
that's sort of
the
that's
song
the
is
takeaway I
actually I'm
had.
not making any money off of the song.
Right.
I mean, I like I don't know about streaming platforms, but on YouTube at least, there's like copyright stuff
It's
where
tough.
I can't
Yeah.
make any money off of it, which
Right.
is fine. But I'm working on getting exclusive rights to that because there's some things happening in the future that I need to be, aware of.
Sweet. Cool. Well, branching off from that, if you just want to quickly run me through, I had read that you had performed it sort of a cappella at a slam poetry event in Hamilton. I was curious about when that was, first of all, just date wise, because I wasn't able to find out when that was. And then you talked even a little bit about the reception you had on social media of some people reaching out to you. What
Yes.
has the general reception been of that track and sort of where the direction you took with that track? And is it something that's taught you anything moving forward?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It
Sure,
has
that's a
been
loaded one. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a phenomenal learning experience for me. And I was absolutely blown away that the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
Right.
which is crazy to me because going in, I don't remember the exact date. I could probably send it to you.
Yeah.
I think it was a Friday a few weeks ago.
Okay.
Um, and
Not
yeah,
long.
I didn't even, what's that?
Not long ago.
No, no, no. It was only a few weeks ago. No more than 3 weeks ago, I don't think. Um, yeah, I mean, like it all started off. I saw the whole slam poetry thing, and I'm like, you know what? I want to practice performing in front of
Right.
crowds,
Right.
get some reps in. So I just went to these events at it's called Mulberry Coffee House in downtown Hamilton, and I just like performed there just to get some reps in without any expectation. And I ended up somehow advancing to the championship. Don't even know how,
Right.
but I got there and I was trying to decide what to perform. And I had two in mind, two songs in mind. Because what I do is I just take songs that I've written and perform them a cappella because I already have them
Right.
written and memorized. And I actually still have a video of this. I was recording myself practicing. And after I practiced one, I thought to myself, what if I did the cry? And you can see in the video how like shook I am because I'm like, yo, if I did that, like
Right.
that would be like crazy. And like that would have a lasting impact. I'm terrified now.
Right.
And I'm saying that in the video. And so leading up to that event, like the amount of prayer and preparation and feedback that I got from different people who agreed and who disagreed. I had friends saying like, dude, you're kind of being an idiot to do this. Like that's stupid. You're just going to ruin your reputation and it's completely unnecessary. You don't need to do that. And then I
Right.
had other people saying like, hey, that song is powerful and that song can impact people and don't not do it just because it could cost you something. And that's
Right.
the advice that I took
Right.
because my goal is to do, I'm more and more, I'm trying to live by sort of the, I guess, the mantra of what is the loving thing to do in every situation. And there's so much to learn from that. And so, yeah, like praying with my girlfriend, and I had my girlfriend a couple days before saying, Chris, are you ready? And I go, what do you mean? She's like, you don't know how people are going to respond. You could have somebody stand up in the middle of the crowd during the performance and start yelling at you. Like, you know, there could be really bad feedback on this. And I was so anxious that I literally slept until about 2 p.m. the day of the event because I didn't want to be awake with the nerves that I had, which is
Right.
crazy. I've never done that before. Even back when I played hockey competitively, I would never do something like that.
Right.
Um, and the prayer and just like giving it all to God. And I remember listening to an unreleased song that I have before that's about gratitude to God. And I was like, God, no matter what happens tonight, thank you. And I will praise you and be grateful to you no matter what happens. And so I put it in God's hands and I had people there to support me, which I am so grateful for. There was prayer teams, there was organizations praying for me. So many people, between 80 and 150 people, I want to say praying. Um, And then it came to the time of the performance, and I closed my eyes the whole time during the performance. And after it was done, I kept my head down and I walked right back to my seat. I did not make eye contact with anybody because the response that people have personally to that song, that's not my weight to bear. I can't handle that.
Right.
And so I just trusted that to God and I let the song speak. And we also said that night that if anybody was like, you know, in need of support, that there were people there who were able to point them in the right direction for support. Say that there was some woman who was considering abortion. Um, and so, you know, myself and all the people that were with me, we really tried to handle it with a lot of care. And surprisingly, like afterwards, there was a massive applause and I was blown away. And I don't think I even really remember the applause. I just saw it in the video because I was so like zoned
Blanked
in.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and then the funniest part of the whole thing, maybe I shouldn't say funny because there's probably a reason that this person gave it the score that they did. But I guess it's just the way that it was handled was kind of funny. Is the MC gets back up to the stage and they're reading out the scores that the judges gave. And the MC says, okay, ladies and gentlemen, what do we think about a 0 out of 10?
Wow.
And so the first score was a 0, and the MC, I guess, like I've never seen a 0 at any of those events ever.
Yeah. That's
Usually
like
everything
unheard
is
of.
at least a 7 because people want
Right.
to be nice, even if something isn't the best.
Yeah.
Um, And the way that she handled it very well. And there was, a good amount of people who clapped in agreement with the zero.
Right.
And I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Well, that just
I
goes to
mean,
show you, right? I mean, like the type of topic that you're dealing with, and it kind of confirms the pressure that you were under the day before, right? Like you knew something like this could be a possibility.
yeah. But the thing is at this point, I was so at peace and I was like,
Right.
I have done what I believe I was called to do. My job is done. I don't need to worry. Like the response to it, people getting upset and stuff, I can pray for those people. And if they want to talk to me, I'll have a genuine, honest, open conversation out of love. But I can't let that be my focus because it's gonna
Right.
just drain me. Um, and then right after that, and this is crazy, right after that, all the other judges gave it either a 9 out of 10 or higher. I think there was like a 9.1, 9.3, and there was, I think, one or two 10 out of 10s as
Mhm.
well. And so it was still overwhelmingly positive. There was only one judge that did that. And I don't know this, so I don't want to say it, but if I'm not, I could be wrong about this. It's possible that that judge was if I'm not mistaken, the only male judge.
Huh.
I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me on that. Um, I think at least that's what I heard from somebody. I don't know if it's true. But the learning experience from that is just like, you know, what else are we going to do in life other than up for what is right and loving and true and stand up and stand in line with what we genuinely believe in. And that was a test. That whole experience was a test. It's like, okay, Chris, you say that this is what you believe. Well, are you willing to share that with a room of 100 people when you have no idea how any of them are going to respond?
Mhm.
And so that is like an opportunity to completely lean on God. And I am so grateful for that opportunity because it's like, yeah, I'm just beyond grateful. And there has been more negative backlash, not to me personally, but the organization that hosted the event. I was told that they received some more negative backlash about that, and also some positive feedback of somebody who wanted to speak to the judge who gave me a zero because they felt that that was completely unfair. So yeah, I think maybe the negative response I haven't really heard much of, or maybe it's just not as negative as I was anticipating. But like I said, my goal was not to upset people. And so I understand that just saying the word, as a man, saying the word abortion immediately puts up red flags for people. Um, I understand that, but I really, really did my best to make the song in a way where even somebody who might disagree at the beginning of the song, by the end of the song is like, you know what? Wow. Like, I understand that. And I had a comment on YouTube about that. Somebody said, I usually lean pro-choice, but this song is like really, you know, kind
Right.
of changed my perspective. So,
That's great. And that's powerful. And I think that's sort of the epitome of prayer in disguise, right? So the headline that people are going to see is, you know, Christian rapper sings pro-life song, gets 10 out of 10, gets 0 out of 10. But it's all of this, it's all of the background work that people aren't seeing that goes into this. Like you said, sleeping until 2 a.m. or sleeping until 2 p.m. the day of, the performance or the prayer with your girlfriend beforehand. There's so much that goes on
yeah.
behind the scenes that gives you an opportunity to make this possible. So that's why, it's so nice to hear and it's so refreshing to have an interview and learn that stuff, right?
And it's all stuff that I'm learning. Like from this point on for the rest of my life, I feel that I am in completely new territory. I'm in fresh territory. There's not anybody that I know that's like really close to me. There's maybe like a couple people who have had like, experiences like this. Um, like in this avenue, yes, there's quite a few people I know, but just in the whole realm of music and like just getting past a certain threshold, like it's all new territory for me. And so I'm a student of life, a student to the Word of God, and I continue to learn and grow day by day. and try to make corrections and see how I can do things better. I am not perfect, and I am not the hero of the story. And I used to have that perspective of wanting to be the hero and, oh, I want to, save the world from all this negativity. But it's like, that's not my role. Jesus Christ already did that. I don't need to fill those shoes. I can't.
Amen.
I can
Amen.
just be a humble servant. So that's what I try to do. Um, is just, every single day be grateful and take the things that I'm learning and do my best with what I have and plant seeds. And if God says, like, hey, that's not the right seed to plant, dig that one up and plant this other seed somewhere else.
Right.
I want to have the spiritual discernment and such a close relationship with God that that is just, you know, the correction of the conviction just comes instantly and I obey it. And that's something that I'm growing in is spiritual discernment.
I feel that on such a personal level, like Christian rapper to Christian journalist. Like you think there's no one story that I can break that changes all the negativity or changes anyone's opinion on anything, but it's going to work each day and finding the little things and just doing the little work and like you said, being that servant. So I
Yeah.
feel on such a personal level. And I think that's something we share as Christian rappers and Christian journalists alike. So that's
Yeah.
super cool. The only other questions I had jotted down for you were you said that you had started back in high school. I was just curious now if you've graduated and if this, like you said, you're working full time. Is this your full time gig?
Yeah, so I started in high school. I graduated high school a few years ago during COVID. I stayed back for a year in high school, and I'm not currently in school. I'm literally just working on music like full time, trying to build this up as a business.
Cool.
And yeah, God has just blessed me. Perfect timing, perfect amount. Like my needs are met, and God is literally my provider.
Right
And it's
on.
kind of insane. You say these prayers over and over, and it's like, God, thank you for providing, and I pray that you would continue to provide. And sometimes when you say it over and over, it can become routine, but that is literally what God is doing in my life.
Right on. And then the other question I had for you was the photo you had provided me of you performing on stage. Do you know what event that was at, when that was at?
So I can give you the exact date. I believe it was around August or June 10th, roughly.
Okay.
This past year. It was in Ohio at an event called Recharge. It's almost like a Christian revival event slash concert that I performed at with a bunch of my friends, Christian artists from across the states. I
Perfect.
can send you all of their links if you're interested in that as well.
Sweet.
A lot of them are doing fantastic stuff. My friend Preacher Isaiah, he just had a newborn son. He's 20 years old with his wife and he wrote a song called Dear Son, and it's like so beautiful and something that would make such an impact on this movement and just on young men and to correct the negativity of, irresponsible fathers and
Right.
sexual promiscuity and stuff. And so all of the guys that I work with, all of my friends are doing, incredible things that I'm just grateful to God to know them. And yeah, the people that God has blessed me with in my life is ridiculous. I literally I can't be grateful enough.
Right. And then the last thing I had on here is we just want to plug you. Where can we find your music? What would you like me to include? At the back end of the story, YouTube, streaming, anything people want to reach out or anything like that. You can just either let me know in an email or if you have it on hand now, would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I can send you an email with the link tree that
Yeah.
can take you to everything. But I mean, I got my website, I got some merch on there, I got YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, Deezer, iTunes, um, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook.
All over the map.
Yeah, I try to cover all bases. The main things for me are Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and then the distributing platforms like Spotify and whatnot. But I
Right.
still do have like Facebook, and I'm still active on my website, and I have an email list on my website and stuff. So
Right on. And then only other thing is going forward, anything that I didn't mention or talk about or ask or bring up that you feel is important to bring up. I have like probably the most content I've had for any story that I've done with this one
oh
interview.
wow. Yeah,
That's
I'm sorry. I know
fantastic.
I'm guilty of rambling on quite a bit and
Hey,
dragging out questions because I
It's
want to give full.
much better to have full answers than those short, 2, 3 word answers. So I'm appreciative of that. But just anything going forward in your life that you want to bring up, any plans you had touched on, maybe wanting to do some other songs with similar themes, anything that you feel comfortable revealing now, I'd love to hear.
Well, we got 3 minutes and 50 seconds left in this recording. I guess the only thing I can really say now, I don't like, there's some stuff I could say that would be really big, but I'm kind of hesitant to share it now,
Right.
because it hasn't gone public yet. So out of respect for organizers and whatnot, I don't want to share anything.
No worries.
Um, but I'm currently working on my next project. I don't know if I'll release it as singles or an album, but I have like more than an album's worth of content written. Just need to record it and get it mixed.
Right on.
And also a lot of the stuff produced. Uh, but yeah, going forward, a lot of the music that I'm been making recently is completely different style. Louis Capaldi type instrumentals, ballads, much more emotional, a lot more singing, a lot more just emotionally gripping and powerful. And so I'm very, very excited to share that stuff. Right now, my plan is to hopefully release my next project starting in like June. If I stick to schedule, then that will be the case. But, usually things have delays, unexpected things come up. So, but that is my goal, is to release my next project in June. Um, I'm releasing an open verse later today for a futuristic song, his song Ikage. I don't know if you're familiar with futuristic, but I'm releasing an open verse for his song. We'll see where that goes. And yeah, just day by day branching out. And um, I guess the only other thing is I want to be an artist that can share vulnerability and really, really help people heal and share truth in all avenues of life, not just one. It's very easy for, to be put in a box. We all like to organize things and put things in boxes, but let's just say I'm going to do my best to break out of the mold. I guess I can leave it at that.
Sweet. Well, Chris, I really do appreciate you hopping on. Like I said, probably the most content I've had to sort through this afternoon is going to be quite busy getting the story ready to go.
Yeah, I'm
Like
sorry
I
about
said,
that, man.
like I said, I would totally prefer that than getting email replies that are either I'm not talking to you or here's what I got, take it if you want it. So I appreciate the long and lengthy call. It's super awesome to hear about what you've been working on, and super excited to see what you have moving forward.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and just thank you to everyone who has helped me. I can't list off names because I'd be here forever.
Right.
But yeah, like my girlfriend, different organizations, my family, friends, like the support has been insane and overwhelming. So I'm just so grateful.
Awesome. Beautiful, man. All right. Well, I'll be in touch with an email. I'll let you know about the
Sure.
podcast and getting it online, and I'll be sure to send you a link to the story once everything's published. Also, I'll send you a draft tonight, not to
Beautiful.
share with anything, but just to make sure everything's in line with what you're comfortable sharing.
Sure.
Awesome. Really
All right.
appreciate it, man. Have a good rest of your day. All right.
Thank you, man. God bless. I really appreciate it. Thank
Take
you.
it easy. Bye bye.
Bye. Oh, I'll stop recording.